This is just going to be a quick video going over this HB counter, which I have found to be a very effective run, especially against the meta right now where people are playing a lot of man coverage, so their coverage is going to be man aligned, or they're going to be man aligned to disguise their zone coverage to mix in with their man-to-man coverage. So either way, this HB counters are going to be very effective against those defenses. You see we're on auto alignment man here, and it's going to be most effective against like a nickel set, and I'll show you why here. So we'll just start nickel 335, which is pretty common, and we'll go to cover 2 man. We're calling this HB counter here, and you see it's looking like this with no outside corner, right? There's no outside corner on the right because they're man aligned. That outside corner that's supposed to be on the right is now lined up on the left, and the slot corner is still going to be on the left because we have 3 wide receivers over there. When you call this counter, there's really no outside corner to stop this, and when you do it, you're going to have so much space to kind of work with one person to beat out there. Now, if they're on like a dollar or a dime, there's still going to be one corner over there, so it's still going to be, it's going to be a little bit better defense against this, but it's still not going to be quite as effective because if they're in dollar and they're in like a baseline or like normal default, there's going to be 2 slot corners on each side and then 2 outside corners. So there's supposed to be 2 to the right if they're in a baseline look. But if they're in a man aligned look, there's only going to be 1 there from the dollar. And I'll show that. But in a nickel set, there's going to be no one over there. And that's where it's going to be really effective for you. So you call this counter again. Now, I made the wrong cut probably there with the outside end block shedding. But you can see the space there. That's what really matters. You have that space and kind of free green. You go outside, and they can't really keep up with you. Those linebackers are not going to be able to pursue you, and you're going to have a ton of space out there. Now, something that you might see on defense that people do that is pretty common is if they're in this man coverage, they'll put these purples out here, and that can actually make the defense play a little bit better even without those outside corners because the safety will come down and maybe make a play, as you saw there. Like, they didn't make the play, but they were in position. They were in the run fit. So you see here against the 2-man under, they just back right up, right? You see that right safety just backing up. Nowhere near the play until like you're already 10 yards downfield. But if you put them in purples, I just want to show you on the replay here, the player backing up. But if they put them in purples, which is pretty common to stop the crossers and stuff like that, maybe if they're 25 yards, 10 yards, like 15, 20, 25 can stop the crossers, but 10 yards can like stop the corner routes. You see if they're in deep paths, they're just going to back up. But if they put them in purples, that's going to bring them down into the play. So purple. That's going to make Tart kind of come down and make the play. Now, it doesn't guarantee they're going to pursue it correctly because you saw in the first play that this time they did and they can come down and make a play. But if they move them at all, that can kind of take them out of the play. So a lot of times, at least what I do is I like to put these players in the box, move them down, put them in the purples like that. That can kind of mess up their angle in the play and they can take themselves out of it. So you see there, the safety takes the wrong cut and you have a touchdown. So though it might be a little bit better at stopping you in the backfield every once in a while, it's not going to be... It's a little bit risky if they get out of position like they did there. So keep that in mind. If they do play it perfectly, you can just kind of cut up field here and get a couple, right? So I should have went outside there and we would have had plenty of green, it looked like. But I made the wrong cut. But I wanted to show you that if they do happen to play pretty good defense, you're usually not going to lose any yards with a look like this. You can just kind of cut it straight up and get a couple. So you see they're like, we got a couple. That's what I wanted to show you. But if they leave those deep paths out there, the majority of the time, you're going to have a ton of space, one person to beat, and you can kind of go from there. So very effective run. I'll quickly here show the dollar and how it can be a little bit better against this because there is still a corner over there, but it's still not going to be too great against it. So quickly go back over here to this counter and we'll go to dollar here. So just call it 2-man under again, cover 2-man, and I'll move this linebacker out of the gap. It doesn't really make a difference, but you see here, so that one corner is going to be on the right. So usually there would be 2 slots on each, a slot on each side and then 2 on the outside. But this time, since they're man aligned, it's only the 1 out there. And you see, now the linebacker is the one who almost made the play right there. But there was a lot of green. But the outside tight end is now assigned to block that player, or it's going to come in free. So that just makes 1 extra person over there, 1 extra defender. But you see here, it still works. But you will see at times that outside corner can come make a play if the tight end doesn't block properly. So keep that in mind. That's definitely something to note. But again, if they're in man-aligned defense, this is going to be a run that you're going to probably find some success with. You see that the tight end allowed that player to come and make the play. Sometimes it's the backfield, sometimes it's right there. But I'll move this player out just to try to see. I want you all to see the times where they make the play. It's not every time, but there are times where it happens. You see that that's it. So if they move them out a little bit, I've seen it without moving out, but that player can make that play. If that happens, you don't have to stick with that run. Read option is still going to be really effective for you. But just like before, if you cut this kind of straight up, if you see that corner's coming in right and you're not going to get blocked, you can try to cut that straight up to make sure you're not losing 5 yards or anything like that. It's tough with the timing. But again, if they don't move that player out, which a lot of times they won't, just simply because they won't even have time. If you're just calling H-back counter and like calling it right out of the huddle and hiking the ball, they might not even have time to do that. So that's it's been an effective run for me when I've called it. I still probably like the read option better just because that threat to go both sides, that read option, if they're in man line with no player over there, the quarterback can run. It's just something you can mix in. That's a different gap shoot. They're not going to be able to shoot the gap on the read option the same way they're going to do this counter. It just throws them off a little bit. It's different blocking. Definitely something that I hope you will mix in.